They thought the human colony had no military. They were right. It didn't need one. The Discovery Commander Vextar adjusted his optical sensors as the long-range scanner completed its sweep of the third planet in the Kepler 442 system. The readings were almost too good to be true. A human colony, thriving and prosperous, with no visible military installations, no weapon platforms, no defensive satellites, not even a single patrol vessel in orbit. Are you certain these readings are accurate? Vextar asked his intelligence officer, Lieutenant Krixna, whose tentacles danced nervously over the control panel. Triple check, Commander. The human settlement spans approximately 50 square kilometers. Population, roughly 10,000. Infrastructure suggests mining operations, agricultural zones, and residential areas. But no military presence whatsoever. Vextar's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. After 3 years of costly battles with human forces across the Outer Rim, finally they had found a soft target. Humans were notorious for their military prowess, but this colony appeared to be nothing more than peaceful civilians. The assessment that Zephyrian War Council convened within hours. Admiral Torgax, Supreme Commander of the 7th Fleet, studied the holographic display with growing excitement. The human colony sat like a ripe fruit, ready for harvesting. This could be the breakthrough we need, Admiral Torgax declared. Human technology, human resources, and human knowledge, all without the usual bloodshed. We take this colony intact, study their methods, and gain the advantage we need to end this war. The tactical analysis was straightforward. The humans had built their settlement in a valley surrounded by gentle hills. Their buildings were constructed from local materials, primarily wood and stone. Solar panels and wind turbines provided clean energy. Gardens and farms dotted the landscape. It looked more like a peaceful retreat than a strategic outpost. No bunkers, no weapons manufacturing, no training facilities, reported Chief Analyst Z. Wiremoth. These humans appear to be farmers, miners, and craftspeople. They even have children playing in the settlement's central plaza. The invasion planning Admiral Torgax assembled a modest force for what he expected would be a simple occupation. 3 assault cruisers, 200 soldiers, and support equipment. More than enough to overwhelm 10,000 unarmed humans. We'll land at dawn, the Admiral announced. Minimal casualties, maximum psychological impact. Once we control their leadership, the rest will surrender peacefully. These are not soldiers, they're civilians who've never seen real combat. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Surround the settlement, demand surrender, and establish control. The humans would have no choice but to comply. After all, what could farmers and miners do against trained Zephyrian warriors? Lieutenant Krixna raised a concern. Commander, shouldn't we be suspicious? Humans don't typically establish colonies without some form of protection. Vextar dismissed the worry with a wave of his claw. Perhaps they're pacifists, or refugees, or simply naive. Either way, they're about to learn that the galaxy is not a safe place for the defenseless. The landing dawn broke over the human colony as 3 Zephyrian cruisers descended through the atmosphere. The ships landed in a triangular formation around the settlement, their massive hulls casting long shadows across the peaceful valley. As the landing ramps lowered, something unexpected happened. Instead of panic, instead of screaming, instead of chaos, the humans simply stopped what they were doing. Farmers paused in their fields. Children looked up from their games. Adults stepped out of their homes, and then they began to gather. Not to flee, not to hide, but to congregate in the central plaza. They came quietly, calmly, with an almost eerie sense of purpose. Men, women, children, elderly, all walking steadily toward the center of their settlement. Commander Vextar watched through his tactical display, puzzled. What are they doing? This isn't how humans typically respond to invasion. Perhaps they're surrendering, suggested Lieutenant Krixna, though uncertainty colored her voice. The humans formed a large circle in the plaza, holding hands. They began to hum a low, harmonic sound that seemed to resonate through the ground itself. The sound grew stronger as more voices joined in. The revelation what happened next defied every tactical manual in the Zephyrian military database. The humming intensified, and the very air around the human settlement began to shimmer. Energy readings spiked across all Zephyrian sensors. "Commander," shouted the sensor operator. "Massive energy buildup detected. Source appears to be the humans themselves." The truth hit Commander Vextar like a plasma bolt to the chest. These weren't ordinary humans. They were psionics, humans who had developed and refined their mental abilities to levels beyond anything the Zephyrians had encountered. The collective consciousness of 10,000 human minds, working in perfect harmony, created a psychic field of incredible power. The Zephyrian soldiers, trained for physical combat, found themselves overwhelmed by waves of mental energy that made their weapons feel impossibly heavy, their thoughts clouded and confused. But the humans weren't attacking. They were simply present. Their combined mental force created a barrier that was both impenetrable and completely nonviolent. The Zephyrian soldiers couldn't approach the settlement, couldn't think clearly enough to operate their weapons, couldn't even remember why they had come. The understanding through the psychic link, one voice reached out to Commander Vextar. It belonged to Elena Vasquez, the colony's coordinator, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and prematurely gray hair. "We know why you're here," her voice echoed in his mind, clear and gentle. "You thought we were helpless. You thought we had no defenses. You were right, we have no soldiers, no weapons, no military. We don't need them." Images flooded Vextar's consciousness. The history of the colony, established by humans who had developed beyond the need for violence. They had learned to harness the power of collective thought, to solve problems through cooperation rather than conflict, to defend themselves through unity rather than weapons. "We are not pacifists because we are weak," Elena continued. "We are beyond violence because we have found something stronger. 10,000 minds working as one can move mountains, calm storms, and yes, protect ourselves from those who would harm us." The commander saw their daily lives through this new lens. The farmers who could sense the exact needs of their crops. The miners who could feel the location of valuable deposits deep underground. The children who learned not mathematics and science, but empathy and mental discipline. "We could have destroyed your ships the moment they entered our atmosphere." Elena's voice remained calm, almost maternal. "We could have driven your soldiers mad or made them forget their own names. But we choose not to. We choose to show you that there is another way." The outcome, the psychic field, gradually diminished as the humans released their collective focus. The Zephyrian soldiers found their minds clearing, their strength returning. But something fundamental had changed. They had experienced something beyond their understanding, a form of power that made their weapons seem primitive and their aggression pointless. Commander Vextar stood in the center of the plaza, surrounded by humans who showed no fear, no anger, no desire for revenge. They simply waited, patient and understanding, for him to make his choice. "Why?" he asked Elena, who had approached him with the same calm demeanor she might use to greet a neighbor. "Why show us mercy? We came here to conquer you." Elena smiled. "Because conquest is an idea born from fear and scarcity. We live in abundance, not of resources, but of understanding. We have learned that the greatest strength comes not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to know when not to use that ability." The Zephyrian fleet departed that afternoon, carrying with them a story that would spread throughout their empire. They had found a human colony without soldiers, without weapons, without military might, and they had discovered something that would change the course of the war. The realization that true strength comes not from the power to defeat others, but from the wisdom to transform conflict into cooperation. Admiral Torgax filed his report with a single recommendation: immediate ceasefire and diplomatic contact. "We have encountered something we cannot defeat, should not defeat, and do not need to defeat. The humans have shown us a better way." Back in the colony, life returned to its peaceful rhythm. Children played in the plaza where alien soldiers had stood just hours before. Farmers tended their crops. Miners continued their work. And 10,000 minds remained ready should they ever need to stand together again, but they hoped they would never need to.